Hey, Soul Babes, welcome to the Essence Podcast. I'm your host, Riss, and in this space, consider me your intuitive bestie, sharing the tools, knowledge, and wisdom you need to reconnect back to your essence. This podcast is all about remembering that you are a unique soul on your own unique journey, and I'm here as your guide, helping you remember and rediscover how to choose yourself, but also how to become your own greatest case study. Because when we are able to understand who we are from the inside out, we stop looking outside of ourselves as our first tier of understanding who we are. And once we are able to understand the depths of our own essence, we start to create a life that reflects and resembles the true, authentic version of ourselves. And in this week's episode, we are going to be getting into the Saturn Return. Yes, honey, I know a lot of us have a love-hate relationship with this planet, but we also have to give grace to this planet because this planet is helping us grow. It is helping us illuminate ourselves and become the bigger and better versions of ourselves by the time we're in our 30s. So yes, the Saturn return that I'm in right now is the 27 to 30 mid-range. So if any of you are in this mid-range, welcome to the club. We all got jackets. I'm sure you already got your jacket. I'm sure you already got your badge because we are also exiting very soon our Saturn return. Saturn return right now is in Pisces. And yes, if you're between that age, you most likely have Pisces in the Saturn aspect of it. So Saturn and Pisces are doing their thing together right now. Saturn should be moving to another sign very soon, but in the meantime, let's just recap. It's funny because I'm seeing all these recaps of Spotify and YouTube, and even on my riverside of me recording this podcast, it's giving me all my recaps. It's like the thing to do right now. And so why not do that recap with Saturn? And just see how the heaviness came about, but how the breakthroughs happened and how transformation just hit home and was gold. So grab your tea, grab your crystals, whatever you need to get grounded, and let's dive in.
In your divine essence you shine. In your divine essence you thrive. I'm your host, Riss, and you're listening to Essence Podcast.
Saturn, right? Like, where do we start with you? 3 years of it. That's how long it takes. I had to Google this too because, I love astrology, but also it's a learning process. Like, astrology has so many layers to it. And I'm not an astrologer. Let's just put that out there, point blank. I'm not an astrologer, but I am a human with a astrology birth chart. Yes. And that means you are too. You do not have to be an astrologer to understand what your Saturn return is and what you're going through, because regardless, you're going to feel shifts happen. And doing the research of understanding Saturn just gives you that upper hand to then become aware of oh, that's why it was so heavy between 27 to 30 years old. And I want to get one thing clear though, is that we're not just doing Saturn once, right, in our lifetime. If you live to be in your 50s, you're doing Saturn again. So you are coming back to what Saturn's lessons are learning and evolving from them if you hadn't already evolved from them in your first round of Saturn in Pisces. Well, for me, to say, Saturn was in Pisces. So again, when I'm 50, that's going to be Saturn in Pisces. And the evolution, it may or may not be big and grand and shocking, or it might. I can't tell you right now because that's the future. But for what I know now is that it did change me life. And to give you a little bit of background of Saturn, placement for me in my chart. Okay, so Saturn is in Pisces for the collective, again, between the age of 27 to 30. But in my house, it was in my fourth, in my wheel chart, sorry. And it was in the fourth house. And the fourth house is identity. It's understanding yourself from like, who am I? It's also the foundation. It's also where our karmic ties are at. It's where our inner child, our story, all of this foundation underneath us, where it sits. It sits in the fourth house. And so while I was discovering that throughout the like beginning of Saturn return, I didn't know how dense and deep it was going to get. I didn't know how much I was going to get cracked open from head to toe. I didn't know how much light needed to enter my body in order for a big shift to change. I really did not know Saturn was doing its thing 3 years ago. And it wasn't really loud. Like Saturn, people talking about Saturn around me, I never really heard that be a thing. Saturn returns. I've heard it like slightly, but I kind of thought it was like your solar return, like your birthday, like woo woo, we're having a party, we're having a celebration. And no, honey, it was something totally different. The more that I started to find like astrologers on YouTube and different apps that I go to, this is when I started to understand like, oh, that heaviness that I'm feeling, this like life is hitting me with bricks feeling, that's coming from Saturn. And honestly, I'm sorry, Saturn, but it's been a love-hate relationship with you. And I signed up for it because it's on my chart. It's in my chart. It's in everyone's chart. But more specifically, was Saturn also governs is not only its own placement, but it also governs the signs. And the biggest sign that it governs is Capricorn. And my sun is in Capricorn. And the ruler of my Capricorn is, you guessed it, Saturn. So, all in all, life for me is a challenge, but it's my challenge, like it's my little guy that beats me up here and there. Like, not saying that that's okay, but life does technically beat you up sometimes, and Saturn's a part of that beating. And anyway, so what I noticed a lot in this transformation with Saturn, first and foremost in my fourth house, was my identity shifts. So a lot of you may know my story of my transformation of 2020 happening and me not having a job, me losing all of my possessions, like my car getting repossessed, my bank account being closed, my what else happened? Bank account being closed, and then also I just felt like shit. Like, physically felt like crap, but creatively felt like I was alive. Spiritually felt like I was waking up. So the layer of my outside world was melting and falling and crumbling while this light inside of me just wanted to bloom and blossom. So I was living in a polarity before my Saturn actually took its course. And this is something that I had to like chat GPT because I had no idea what the hell was going on. I thought my Saturn return was happening like in 2020, 2021, but no, it didn't necessarily happen until 2023. And that's because in my chart, there was another segment in my whole natal chart that was basically destined for me to have this identity crisis with Saturn being involved. And then once it hit 2023, that's when everything that I had gone through of like my world crumbling, but my life being rebuilt and renewed with this new identity started to become louder, stronger, more vivid. I felt kind of like a Russian doll, like where I was just like, I broke into pieces, and then I'm breaking more into pieces. Like there's another layer to go into, and another and another. And so what it felt like in that Russian doll was like, yes, the like my own mental self was breaking. Like this version that I saw of myself like broke first, but then the layers that kept going deeper and deeper were leading to my inner child, were like leading me down the road back to like the very beginning. And really, my whole journey from these past 3 years has been wild because I've been feeling exposed at the same time, but also liberated. So, with the breaking and with the exposure that came with like my father finding out who I am, a person that really loves spirituality and the woo woo ness and is a witch and like is just this like person he does not know. So these identities were being destroyed, but then they're also being exposed. Like these deeper layers of my essence were being like super exposed. And so using myself as a case study, getting to know what Saturn was really teaching me. That means by identifying Saturn. And where is Saturn at during this time? Not only is Saturn in the fourth house, but what is Saturn doing its business with? And that was Pisces. Piscean energy is very spiritual. Piscean energy it's watery, and it is a place where we are becoming more in tune with our intuition, becoming in tune more with our dreams and who we are as a spiritual being, who we are from an ethereal being, like we are more than just a physical. We are this expansion, this energy that connects us to the totality of universal consciousness. And so what I was also having be a big loud noise in my Saturn return was to turn up the volume of my intuition, to speak up on what's going on inside, to talk the quote unquote woo woo. I don't even like saying that word anymore because it feels derogatory, because this is something that is internal. This is something that is true from a place when you go beyond logic. And it became this sort of battlefield of me like still wanting to like pick up those pieces that cracked and like put them back together so I can put a mask on again, especially around my father, to be loved, to be accepted, especially around people that I once wanted to still be friends with. And it was something that like you can't go back on. Like you have to keep trailblazing forward. And through those moments, I would find myself feeling so stagnant and feeling like, how the hell do I move through this? And it wasn't really until I began to see like, this is who I am. This is my essence. This is my truth. This is what I believe in. This is what I breathe in. This is what I eat. This is what I do. This is how I be. All of these layers were starting to speak for themselves. And it wasn't until I started to accept that's when the journey started to become more easeful. Like there was still challenges happening, but the challenges felt like, okay, I get it. The challenge is to accept myself, to love myself, and to be myself. And I do feel like at that pinnacle moment in Saturn's greatest ta-da moment in my life, it became like, okay, I get it. I get what you're trying to show me. I get what you want me to see. And with that, Saturn, I am grateful for you. I am grateful that you've decided to teach me great things that it was hard to see at first. And once I opened up and I started to see like, this is what I am doing, this is how I'm moving, then I started to notice like, okay, well, there are multiple people who have Pisces in their Saturn. And some of these were being reflective because a lot of my friends, they're my age. And some of them I was seeing match how I'm moving, but then there were some that I was seeing were a bit different. And one of them was my boyfriend. My boyfriend is also a Saturn, a Pisces Saturn, and his his whole dynamic of how Saturn worked with him felt very different. It didn't feel the same like mine. Mine was a big like bang, like like break it all down. And like for my boyfriend, he's very solid in who he is. Yeah, his Pisces is also in the 4th house. And what I was seeing with his was like he is very solid. Like he had no real identity crisis going on. He didn't have this whole like breakdown happening to him. Like he was literally, it seemed like for him, his Saturn return was like smooth sailing. Like I was like, you are doing quite a good job with your Saturn return. Like what is happening? But the more that I realized the differences, the more that I seen like we are different people. We might have the same signs in our like he has like resembles some of the same signs that I have in my birth chart. Like we both have a Scorpio rising and we both have a Venus in Aquarius, and there's just a lot of commonalities we have in our chart, but there's a lot of differences too. And these are differences that are pretty loud. Like even when I got with him, he was very secured in who he is, very honest and true to himself. As for me, I felt like I was kind of struggling with that identity crisis. And also, too, like I was, when we first started dating, was like telling him, oh, my mom, she told me Chevron gas is the best gas. So I'm only going to Chevron. So my mentality was still wrapped up on like what my parents had taught me. I had no individuality per se. Like I had an identity that was mine, but like mentally, everything that I had learned was still in my consciousness of me not discerning it, but more so just accepting it as my truth. So that became the break that I seen in my life, that shift of like become your own individual person, break through from all that is not serving you. And for him, it was just different. I was looking at him and he had the aspect of building like a foundation a lot more solid. So this is when I say like, Saturn can also like make or break you, because for my boyfriend's, Sergio, I'm just going to say his name. My boyfriend. Sergio's Saturn return in Pisces was more of getting his foundation to be solid, to being even more like on it with like his beliefs, like making those stronger. Because I mean, as a collective, we started to see things shift. Political lines, we started to see things shift like everywhere around us, economically, and how people are thinking, how people are moving. Like it's all sort of that shift that takes place all at once. And for my boyfriend moving in society, he became more like, I need to solidify myself. I need to be 100% true and honest with myself. I have to learn new skills that will basically help me succeed in that foundation of growth, of identity, and being true to himself. And so that's where I do feel like we were on different playing games when it came to that level. There's so many other friends, again, that have that Pisces and Saturn, but I have not looked at their charts, so I can't explain all of my friends and how we compare and contrast. But I just know that Pisces really had something to do with us coming back home to ourselves as a collective. Like, a lot of us woke up. A lot of us started to see there is something that needs to change here. There's this like intuitive aspect of ourself that started to wake up. We started to come online. Our like crown chakra antenna was starting to connect. And here we are now fully aware about our life, about what we're doing and how we're moving. And this is really what's going to take us into our next movement, into our next chapter, which is in our 30s. You know, like if you weren't already 30, floaty, and thriving, just know that your 30s is like, it's where you get to feel more alive. I really do, on my behalf, see that like my 20s has been, it's been a challenge. Honestly, I probably wouldn't go back to my 20s, and that's a personal opinion. Like, I was just talking to my friends yesterday. We all FaceTimed, my beautiful friends that live all over the world and that I don't get to connect with. We finally got to talk yesterday. And one of the biggest things that we talked about too was like beauty and how we are getting old. We are now in our 30s, are going to be in our 30s. And sometimes that can scare people. It doesn't necessarily scare me, but I know that one of my friends, she was talking about like in honesty, how like, you know, youth is beauty. And when you aren't youthful, then you're not beautiful. And the way that I saw it was like, I honestly didn't ever think that. I mean, I did think I was beautiful when I was, you know, a lot more youthful, like early teenage years, early 20s, adolescence. Like, yes, I was feeling myself, but I honestly didn't feel like myself. And so what I see as like beauty, as like the pinnacleness of beauty is like being a woman, like who gets to flourish and live and breathe in her own self, like owns the curves, owns it, like sophisticated energies, sophisticated mama. Come on, you disco ladies, yeah, sing with me tonight. Yeah, that's the type of energy that I'm living by, and I'm ready to make my vision board because I am ready to be that disco fever goddess that I know I am. Because this is been a reward that Saturn's been giving me, is that like maybe I wouldn't have ever felt this like feeling in my 30s of like feeling this way if I had stood where I was with the identity that I had and not broken through my shell, to be able to see what I really want and who I really want to be in this new chapter of my life. And because of those breakthroughs, it's allowed me to even feel like, yes, 2026, it's going to be so yummy. I already taste 2026 in the palm of my hands of like so much more of the reward. And I do feel like this goes in with like what people say, and this is so true. I mean, you know this for yourself. When you put in the work, you receive the rewards. And energetically, Saturn allowed you to do just that. Put in the work, girlfriend, boyfriend, and become the reward. Become that juicy pinnacle person that you know you can become, and build upon that. And let that be the catalyst that moves you through the rest of your journey. And I did write a few notes down on like kind of that momentum that took place with the Saturn return, because I know some of us are probably not in our Saturn return yet, but want to listen to this. There are some that have already done their Saturn return. It does not matter where you are with your Saturn, but I do want to just clarify just how it kind of goes down on me brainstorming how it went down for me. This is the same that could happen for you, but it became that identity shift, being cracked open, redeeming the inner child. And this right here is what I have not talked about, being in the void. So maybe the identity being cracked open, redeeming the inner child, maybe that was just personal to me. This is something, again, where you have to look at in your own chart of like what house it's in, what sign is in that place of your Saturn, and kind of put into play, ChatGPT it, Google it, and try to see like, okay, how is this connected? Like, what does this house mean? How does it relate to what my Saturn's going to teach? How does this relate to a bigger picture? Do I have any other like big three, like your rising moon or sun, that governs this Saturn return sign? I mean, the Saturn sign, and then play with it and see how your Saturn return is going to happen for you. But yeah, so after like the redemption of self, the inner child of the story, it's the void. The void is the womb of being patient, being lost, not knowing where to go, that limbo energy, just like basically seeing yourself in outer space, like, what the heck? What do I grasp onto? Like, what happens next? This all comes in the void. And I do believe Saturn throws us in the void as sort of this incubation, because if we get out of this incubation too fast, we can relapse. We can go back to our old self. We can get scared, we can get confused, and we can also get stuck. And trust me, I got stuck so many times in the void. I was scared when I would get stuck. I was in this place of like, I'm different. I am basically seeing myself as a black sheep. Oh, now a rainbow sheep. But back then I was seeing black sheeps, and I was just seeing that this void felt scary. It felt dark. It felt dense. But when we surrender to the void, when we surrender to the womb, just letting ourselves incubate with the feelings that we're feeling, with the thoughts that are happening, with the new life that wants to be received, this void becomes gold. It becomes necessary for us to grow into that bigger and better version of ourselves that Saturn is wanting us to see and to live and breathe in. And after the void, there's always a magic moment. My podcast is one of the biggest things that came out of Saturn. I did not want to do this podcast. I didn't even want to talk about this. I didn't want to talk about spirituality. I didn't want to talk about myself. I didn't want to talk about my problems. I didn't want to talk about any of this. And I kind of wanted to write it into a book. I just wanted to mute my voice. I wanted to filter it, and I wanted to write a book so people can see what I went through, but not the whole messiness, not the whole trying to figure it out part. But you listening to this have probably been here since day one, or maybe just listening to this. And yes, this is real. This is authentic. This is true. This is what the Saturn is bringing. It's bringing you and myself into this place of speaking and being your authentic self. And after that, that becomes your becoming. You become the most beautiful version you could have ever imagined for yourself. You become this radiant ball of light, like everything that you finally can see that you are, you become. And it's a wonderful journey to be on. It's very harsh, but very much worth it. It's I can't even explain that duality. You will live through it if you haven't already, but that duality becomes the pinnacle moment for a new chapter in your life to occur, a new chapter of your life to blossom and bloom. And if there's anything that I can give you, anything that I can share with your soul today, it is to stay open. Keep yourself open, and remember that there is so much more that your soul came here to explore, your soul came here to embody, your soul came here to share. And this right here is just a moment in time. Every year, every age that you are, every journey you're on is just a moment in time. And I know that you in your 50s, if you're listening to this, can handle it too. Like, you are ready to rise, to ride the wave of like whatever is needing to be collapsed and organized in your life, but in a more smooth, thoughtful, intentional way of like, okay, I know this is not serving me anymore, but I know what does. I know what will. I know what's coming. I know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. That is what that 50s energy definitely gives. It gives like, yes, honey, I know this. I know how to ride this wave called Saturn, and I got it. So to close this off, I want you to close your eyes and place your hand on your heart and on your stomach. And we're going to take a few deep breaths in together, and we're going to let Saturn just get some love, the Saturn within us, those challenges at this moment. So let's breathe in. Exhale out of your mouth. Breathing in through the nose. Exhale out. Last time, breathing in. And exhale, let it go. Beautiful. At this time, I'd like for you to tell Saturn, I see you. I hear you. I understand. You are teaching me something great. I surrender to my own divine plan, and I come out the other side bigger, brighter, and better. So be it. Yes. Yes. I affirm this, and I hope you do too, because it's the truth. And if you would like to share your Saturn story with me, if you've already been through it, like what's kind of some of the things you went through, these like big aha moments you had for yourself, these rewarding moments you had for yourself, the transformation that happened, like was there like a big catastrophe? Was there a smaller catastrophe? Like what house was it in? Give me the details. I love the tea, and I love to just see how transformation happens for us all. And if you would like to hear more about being in your essence, be sure to follow me on TikTok and Instagram. You can also visit my website, essenceofrisk.com, to find all my services and workshops that are available to helping you come back home to yourself. And then lastly, you can listen to this podcast episode and all my podcast episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. And I'll see you in the next one, Soul Babes. Bye for now.